welcome back to Bristol BrewTube. In this video we're going to be looking at the mash, which is a critical part of all grain brew in a bag one pot brewing, which is what we're doing. If you haven't checked out the earlier videos, definitely have a look at the first couple, because they give an overview of the way that I brew and this method that I'm demonstrating. So, without further ado, here is the pot. We're currently getting up to temperature. It's we're aiming for I'm aiming for sort of 64, 65, and we're currently getting up to about 55. So we're certainly on the way there. Now, this is going to be a single step mash. The reason for that is that I've experimented with what's known as multi-step mashing. And what it does is, because in a nutshell, the thing with mashing and mashing temperatures is slightly different temperatures will result in a different kind of sugar being extracted from the grain in there. And basically, in a nutshell, slightly higher temperature means that the sugar is slightly less fermentable, so it ends up being slightly thicker and slightly sweeter. Slightly lower temperature means that it's slightly more fermentable, ends up being drier. I'm sure there are people out there who are going to correct my chemistry, but in a nutshell, for home brewers, that's pretty much what you need to know. What you can do is you can do what's known as multi-step mashing. So you could, for example, start at 40, that'll extract a certain type of sugar. Then you could raise it up to maybe 62, 63, that would extract a different type of sugar, and then raise it up again to 70, that would extract a different type of sugar. What I've discovered is that the main advantage of doing that is that you get a bit more sugar out of your mash, so you end up with what's known as a higher efficiency. In home brewing, particularly in all grain, efficiency is what's known as that's the maximum amount of sugar that you could theoretically get out of your grain. So 100% efficiency would mean you've got every single piece of sugar out of your grain. However, in reality, I get between 65 and 70, occasionally getting up to 75, and that's pretty good. If your efficiency isn't as good as you would like, the two things you can do: you can either use more grain, or, as I showed in an earlier video, you can add a bit of dried malt extract at the end to bring it up to the gravity that you want. So, but that said, in a nutshell, a single step mash will be absolutely fine. Now, one concession I do make to efficiency is that I mash for 90 minutes rather than 60. Most books, most instructional videos will talk about mashing for 60 minutes. I do it for 90 in order to get that bit of an extra efficiency out, just because it's easy. It's just leaving it in for an extra half an hour. It's no extra bother, really, just takes a little bit longer. However, that's my concession, I suppose, to the fact that I don't quite get with this method the efficiency that you could do. So let's get the mash going. Now, this is brew in a bag. So, unsurprisingly, we're going to need a bag. And as I've talked before about this here bag, it's not really big enough. So what I do is I hook it on with these clothes pegs. I mean, if I could be bothered to get a full-size bag, that would be better. Now, one important thing to remember is that it's often said that home brewing is really just hygiene, because that's the only thing really that you can get fundamentally wrong. Importantly, at this stage, although you want to be clean because you don't want bits of gunk and other horrible stuff falling into your beer, it's not vital for everything to be sanitized, because later in the process we're going to boil this for an hour. So let's start getting this grain in there. Let's just and then give that a bit of a stir. Make sure that all that grain is getting wet. Excellent. And we just go back and we do that process a few more times, because the problem is if you tip it all in one go, it all sort of clumps together like dough and doesn't get adequately wet, because of course it's the heat from the water which is going to get the sugar out of the grain, because that's what this whole process is all about. So in we go, we do a bit more. Okay, that's now what we're dealing with. So we've got now we've gone way too high on here, so it's time to turn off the gas and make sure the temperature is round about. I mean, to be honest, if it goes a little bit below, a little bit above, I don't really bother too much. It doesn't really make any difference. And we'll just let that drop down to temperature. I mean, this is one of the problems with my method. I mean, we're up here at about 68. It will drop down. What I'll do is I'll give it a bit of a stir. Now, basically, we just leave that for an hour and a half. That's the way we do it. I'll see you in the next video.